Have you ever seen a flamingo? These tall, pink birds are famous for their bright feathers and long, curvy necks. For a very long time, almost 100 years, seeing a wild flamingo in Florida was super rare. People thought they were gone for good, just a memory from old stories. But then, something amazing happened. In August of 2023, a powerful storm named Hurricane Idalia swept across the ocean. This hurricane was so strong that it picked up a giant flock of flamingos that were flying between Mexico and Cuba. The wind pushed them far away from their home and scattered them all across the United States. Suddenly people were spotting these incredible pink birds in places like Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, and, of course, right here in Florida. After the storm passed, scientists and birdwatchers got very excited. They started counting all the unexpected visitors. Reports came in from all over, with people sharing pictures and stories of the flamingos they saw. In total, there were more than 300 sightings of these beautiful birds. It was like a pink surprise party thrown by Mother Nature herself. These weren't birds that escaped from a zoo. They were wild flamingos, brought to a new place by the power of the wind. Everyone wondered if the birds would just fly back home, or if maybe, just maybe, they would decide to stay and make Florida their home once again. It was a question that had everyone holding their breath. The flamingos that landed in Florida seemed to find something they liked. 6 months after the hurricane, researchers flew over the wetlands and counted more than 100 flamingos still hanging out in the state. This was a huge deal. It showed that the birds weren't just passing through, they were finding food and safe places to rest. Then, in the summer of 2025, an even bigger discovery was made. A group of photographers spotted a flock of 125 flamingos waiting together in a special place called Florida Bay. This was the largest group of wild flamingos seen in Florida in over a century. It was a truly historic moment for the state and for everyone who loves wildlife. This sudden return was a puzzle. Why did these flamingos stay when others in the past had not? Scientists believe the answer is not just about the storm, it's also about the place itself. Florida has been changing, and for the better. The water is getting cleaner, and the food that flamingos love to eat is becoming more plentiful. For these birds, arriving in Florida after the storm was like finding a long-lost home that was finally ready to welcome them back. This wasn't just a lucky accident, it was a sign that years of hard work to fix the environment were starting to pay off in the most beautiful, pink-feathered way you can imagine. Among the hundreds of flamingos blown in by Hurricane Idalia, one special bird became a superstar. His name is Peaches. After the storm, Peaches was found all alone and a little weak near Tampa, Florida. He needed some help to get back on his big skinny legs. Kind people from a wildlife rescue group took him in and gave him food and care until he was strong and healthy again. But before they let him go, scientists from Zoo Miami and Audubon, Florida wanted to learn more about where these new flamingos might travel. They decided Peaches could help them solve this mystery. They gave him a special tiny backpack with a GPS tracker inside. The scientists also gave Peaches a little piece of jewelry, a blue band on his leg, with the code US02 written on it. This band would help people identify him from far away, even without fancy equipment. After a few days of rest, it was time for Peaches to be free again. The rescuers released him back into the wild, and everyone cheered as he flew off. For a few days, the GPS tracker sent signals, showing that Peaches was exploring the coast of Florida. But then, the tracker suddenly stopped working. Peaches had vanished. His last known spot was near Marco Island in October 2023. Everyone wondered where he went. Did he stay in Florida, or did he fly home? For almost 2 years, the mystery of Peaches remained. People kept an eye out for a flamingo with a blue leg band, but there were no sightings. It seemed like his story was over. But then, in June of 2025, incredible news arrived from far away. A photographer in Mexico, at a place called the Rio Lagartos Biosphere Reserve, took a picture of a flamingo. And guess what? This flamingo was sitting on a nest and had a small blue band on its leg. When the photographer zoomed in, the code was clear, US02. It was Peaches. He had made the long journey all the way back to the biggest flamingo colony in the region. The story of Peaches taught scientists so much. It proved that at least some of the flamingos that arrived with the hurricane were truly wild birds from the nesting colonies in the Yucatan. He was not an escapee from a local zoo. His incredible journey of hundreds of miles over the open ocean showed how strong and determined these birds are. Even though he didn't stay in Florida, his adventure gave us a direct link between the new Florida flamingos and their ancestral home. Peaches became a symbol of the wild spirit of these birds and the amazing connection between different parts of our planet. His story is a fantastic chapter in this comeback tale. To understand why the return of flamingos is so exciting, we have to look back in time. In the 1800s, Florida was a paradise for flamingos. Huge flocks with thousands of birds lived in the Everglades and Florida Bay. Their bright pink feathers made the wetlands look like they were blooming with flowers. These birds were a natural part of Florida's landscape, just like alligators and manatees. But in the late 1800s, a new fashion trend became very popular: big fancy hats for ladies. And the most fashionable hats were decorated with real bird feathers. Sadly, the beautiful pink feathers of the flamingo were in high demand. This fashion craze was a disaster for the flamingos. Hunters came to Florida and hunted the birds by the thousands, just for their feathers. It was easy to hunt them because they nested in large, crowded groups. Entire colonies were wiped out. The flamingo population crashed. By the early 1900s, they had almost completely vanished from the state. Thankfully, people realized what a terrible thing this was. In 1918, a new law called the Migratory Bird Treaty Act was passed, which made it illegal to hunt flamingos and many other birds. This law saved many bird species, but for the flamingos, it was almost too late. Their numbers were too low to recover. But hunting wasn't the only problem. As more people moved to Florida, they started to change the land. They built canals and dams to drain the wetlands for farms and cities. This changed the way water flowed through the Everglades. The water that was supposed to go south into Florida Bay was sent somewhere else. This caused Florida Bay to become very, very salty, much saltier than it should have been. The tiny shrimp and algae that flamingos love to eat couldn't survive in the extra salty water. The flamingos' home was no longer a good place for them to live because their food source was gone. So, even after the hunting stopped, the flamingos didn't come back. Their home had been broken. For decades, the few flamingos that were seen in Florida were thought to be escapees from zoos or private collections. Scientists didn't even consider them a native Florida bird anymore. It was a sad story of a beautiful animal that lost its home due to human actions. First, they were hunted for their beauty, and then their environment was changed so much that they could no longer survive. The disappearance of the flamingos was a clear sign that the health of the Everglades ecosystem was in serious trouble. For many years, it seemed like the story of Florida's flamingos was over. But people who cared about nature didn't give up. They knew that to bring back the birds, they had to fix their home. In the year 2000, a giant project called the Comprehensive Everglades Restoration Plan was started. This huge, multi-billion-dollar plan is one of the biggest environmental repair projects in the world. Its main goal is to fix the flow of water in South Florida, sending fresh water back south into the Everglades and Florida Bay, just like it used to flow naturally. It's a slow and complicated job, but it's starting to work. Over the last 20 years, this restoration work has started to heal the ecosystem. The water in Florida Bay is becoming less salty and more balanced. This has allowed the seagrass to grow back, creating a healthy home for the small creatures that live there. And when the small creatures return, the bigger animals follow. In recent years, scientists have seen amazing signs of recovery. Huge flocks of other wading birds, like white ibis and roseate spoonbills, have returned to nest in the Everglades in numbers not seen since the 1940s. The ecosystem was coming back to life, creating the perfect welcome mat for any lost flamingos that might happen to fly by. This is why the flamingos that Hurricane Idalia brought to Florida decided to stay. They didn't land in the broken, overly salty bay of the 1990s. They arrived in a healthier, healing ecosystem that had plenty of their favorite foods. The success of the Everglades restoration created the perfect opportunity for their return. The storm gave them the push, but the healthy environment gave them a reason to stick around. It shows that when we work hard to repair the damage we've done to nature, wildlife can and will come back. The flamingos are living proof that our efforts are making a real difference. So, what does the future hold for Florida's flamingos? There is a lot of hope. The birds that are here now are exploring their new home, and scientists are watching them closely. They hope that the flamingos will feel safe enough to start building nests and raising chicks right here in Florida. This would be the first time in over a century. Flamingos are very social birds and like to nest in huge groups, so the more birds that stay, the better the chance they will breed. Their return is more than just a beautiful sight, it's a powerful symbol of recovery and a bright pink beacon of hope for the future of the Everglades.